Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else listening, welcome back to Commissions Open Season 2. Character design for the set by Doida Flower on Twitter. Promotional art by Andromeda_Snow on Twitter. Icon created by Shy Starfall. Commissions Open logo created by Melodic Scavenger. And tonight's guest, the artist who will tell you to get off your ass and make your own webcomic, and the creator behind Wanted Gang Stars, it's WriizzyArts. And here's your host, Doc Conrad. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Commissions Open, an interview podcast all about art in the digital age. Here you can hear the processes, stories, and lives of talented artists, voice actors, video creators, editors, musicians, and many other talented creators in the era of online work. I am your host, Doc Conrad, and today I have the absolutely wonderful Wriizzy, or Wriizzy. How you want to say it?
Wriizzy's cool. I'm
Right.
cool with like Wriizzy.
Perfect. Wriizzy, you are currently making a comic called Wanted Gang Stars, and you reached out to me as someone who has enjoyed the podcast, and I really appreciate that. And
Oh yeah.
I wanted to go ahead and talk a bit about your project you got going on. But why don't we go ahead and first start off with how you first got started with art in general.
I'd love to. Well, first off, I should say like, hey, I'm Wriizzy. If you guys don't know me, I work on a small webcomic called Wanted Gang Stars you could find on Webtoons or Tapas, either one. And how I got started with art. It goes way, way back to elementary school. I wasn't really like that interested in like the arts. I was more so like I started drawing Sonic characters because I thought they looked cool, and I just thought like, oh, if I draw Sonic characters, then like I think that's pretty cool, and other people will think it's cool, and like teachers would see it and shit, and they'd be like, oh, Warren, wow, this looks great, this looks super cool, and I'm like, oh, thanks. And they'd usually like come up to me and saying like, wow, Warren, this is great. You should pursue this as a career. This is amazing. Your art's good. And I'd just be like, nah, that's kind of lame. I don't want to do art when I'm grown up. It sounds kind of boring. Little did I know, I'm a massive hypocrite. So I started like drawing more in middle school, but not to the point I am now. I didn't really take it as seriously as I did back then. Um, I started taking it seriously like sophomore year of high school. That's when I started like caring about like how I do stuff and what I do. Oh, actually, I'm leaping forward a bit. Somewhere in middle school, I wanted to do like animation,
Hmm.
so I started like this little YouTube channel called Louis Blue.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't have any big animation software at the time. I was like 14 at the time. So I got my tablet, like an Android tablet, downloaded Flip and just made like these crummy video game parodies.
Hmm.
Like and in order to make them, I'd get my phone microphone and just scream nonsense into it, like, oh, Luigi, let's go. Oh, we gotta go do the thing. We must go, Luigi. Oh,
Oh, Mama
oh, and
Mia.
Bowser. Oh, yeah, like, oh, Mamma Mia. Oh, I'm gonna die. Oh, these mushrooms. Whoa. And, like, then I'd animate it, and
Wait.
surprisingly, people watched it. They liked it, and it took off somewhat. And like, I got to like meet friends off it, and like, we did small animations, and for a bit that was cool. Then I deleted the channel because I thought it was gay. I wanted to, like I wanted to like pursue other stuff in life,
So
which
Yeah, so you had an artistic background, and then you moved on from your artistic background to like you and then you went into you went into like animation eventually, made video game parodies when you were like a kid, like basically like early stuff like when you're 14, and then you're just like, I hate it. And then
Yeah, basically. It was like it was stuff I did when I was like super young, and I didn't want that like I know it's like the age old, oh, you should keep your stuff so you don't like, because this was like your childhood. And like I still have it. I just don't want it on the internet
Mm.
for thousands of people to see.
Oh man, that's a mood right there. I remember when I was a kid, there was a I made a YouTube channel. Shout out Justin. Where we called it the A&J Show, and we barely did scripts. We barely did skits. We just turned on the camera and we started talking, and that was it. And it was awful.
Oh,
So
that's
I know your exact feeling of getting rid of all of those things.
yeah. I think it's for the best. Maybe when I get like maybe I'll put it online again in the future just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look back at some of that stuff and think like, man, this is cringy, but it sure does get a laugh out of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
it makes sense. Yeah.
later in high school is when I like that's when I started to like abandon the channel because I had it for a while. But I wanted to start like, I wanted to get better at art. I wanted to like actually pursue this comic that I've been planning for a while, which I did make in there's actually before Wanted Gangsters, I made a different comic called Star Envy, which was pretty much the same story as Wanted Gangsters, but the characters are different. The whole story was like somewhat similar, but everything was like totally different. It was in black and white for starters, because I didn't want to like dedicate myself to coloring because I thought that'd be like too much work, and I did care about like my grades back then. I didn't want to take too much time off it. The comic was horrible, so I said to myself like, man, I think I think I could do better with this. So I scrapped that idea and I did some more planning and actually um remade it into what it is now, which is Wanted Gangstars.
So why don't we go ahead and talk a bit about the general consensus of the plot of What a Gang Stars and how long you've had each of these characters for?
Of course, yeah. So the plot of Wanted Gangstars is the year is um the year is 2040, right? AD in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're all probably dead. Well, we probably don't exist to begin with since this takes place in like a totally like different world from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So 2040 AD, there's this huge ass city called World City, creative, I know. And in that city is like the best shit ever. What is it? You don't know. You know it's amazing. There's grand stuff. There are big lights in TV shows, but you don't get to see it because you're lame. And so the ruler of the city is the city king or the president, but he's city king because that's cooler. And
Mm-hmm.
his name is Sunrise Divarok or Divarok Cipher or Sunrise Decipher because that's easier to say. And for 8 years, he's ruled over the city, kept care of it, kept it in line. And he was overall a really good ruler until come 2048, he passed. But before he passed, he issued like one challenge to the entire world and what people call Sunrise's Law. And that challenge was if you could defeat the next guy in a fight to become the city king, then, your life's fair game. You could do anything you want free of any consequences. Like the world is yours. And so, time skip to 2060 AD, a small city girl, a small 20-year-old city girl named Aurora Borealis comes to comes to Wayward City, which is like a small location within World City, in order to challenge the City King and become Gangstar. But amidst that, while doing so, her and her friends come into some troubles with a highly advanced criminal organization, and that's where I'll like stop it off now because the
Mm-hmm.
comic isn't far like into that arc yet, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to spoil anything for like the readers out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So with that plot in mind, I can like guesstimate from some of these things like your inspirations for this sort of not only the plot line but your characters. But why don't you go ahead and talk about what you were inspired by in order to make this sort of comic and everything that you've made involved with it. I'd love to hear about the process behind you making this sort of thing.
Oh yeah, so back when I was a kid, I'd read like a whole ton of shonen manga,
Mm-hmm.
mainly Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Z, Ranma, and Full Metal Alchemist, which were like, that was my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And one recently that I got into fairly recently, like beginning of high school, was it it's a small shonen series. You may have never heard of it. It tends to fly under the radar, but it's this small series called One Piece.
That's where it is. That's what I was going to say.
Yep, yep. And I think it's clear to tell that like One Piece is like a huge inspiration for one of Gangstars,
Hmm.
and like it's the One Piece is like the the thing I like in life. It's like the type of thing I like, which is like, absurdly goofy characters and an even more absurdly goofy world. It's like stuff like that in the Mario RPG games is what I like strive for. And I'm just like, yeah, I want to do something like that.
Hmm.
I think that's so fun.
Hmm.
And,
It, it,
and it definitely got me into like, character design because
mhm.
early One Piece character designs were like so like cool. Like you had this like in One Piece you had this like claw dude. He like, all right, so there's this like butler guy, right? And like for some reason he put up his glasses, like his glasses would slouch over and he'd put them up with like his wrist. And it's like, why do you do that? Why the heck did he do that? And then it's revealed later that he has these claws on his fingers that are so big that if he tried to like put his glasses up regularly with like two of his fingers, he ended up like fucking stabbing himself. And so like he has to do like his wrists, and I think stuff like that's like super clever. Or like this clown guy who like there's this clown dude named Buggy who like he could like get cut in half and totally like still be alive. He could like separate parts of his body, and like his character design is so like attuned to that where like he'll be cut in half and he has like this striped getup. So when he gets cut in half, the cuts look like super clean and super nice. And also in general, he's just a fun character because uh, he's a clown and clowns are fun. So like stuff like that is it's like a huge inspiration for me and this comic.
Hmm. I've read a little bit of at least like the first few the first few bits of at least Graffiti One, and you I definitely saw I definitely saw the early inspiration not only from the basis of the plot line going forward for the beginning setting, but also like the love of food from the characters and the greatness from like your what was it, you not only the love of food from each of the characters but also like your the ability for them to like shift body weight around and like absolutely beat up people without things like with like comically destroy each other and like it's just a bunch of like that sort of thing. Like I see a lot of it in that, but you still put your own spin on it, and I love it. But
Yeah.
keep going about like what you've done with the comic.
Um. So far, like I'm with Wanted Gangsters, I'm like 5 chapters in, and I haven't told like most of the story I wanted to tell for like those first 5 chapters are like setting things up for things to come. And the chapter I'm currently working on is like the chapter that pushes that story into overdrive. Like once chapter 6 is out, it's gonna like all right, everything's enough with the introductions, enough with the kiddie shit. We know these characters now. Let's put them in this story and let's get things like rolling. And I'm excited to like actually like put it out
Mm-hmm.
and give people like this story I've been wanting to tell for about a good 5, 6 years.
So you've been like writing out this story that you've made inspired by shonen manga itself. Why don't you go ahead and talk about like the process of like how is it that you have everything written out? Do you have like a fully dedicated script? Do you have it in your head? Do you like draw characters out and go from there? Like what's the process?
Well, I have this small book called The Big Bad Book of Ideas. I actually wrote that on the cover of this like notebook I had.
Mm-hmm.
And in it is like the entire story that I want to tell. But like so like I have within it I have like written down the characters, like some small little summaries of like the characters, the plot, what arc leads into which other arc, which how those arc form that current saga and how that saga leads into the next. And like um after like planning it for so long, I realized this series is gonna be like so huge,
Mm-hmm.
and which is like it gets me ecstatic because I'd always wanted to like work on like big fun projects like that. But at the same time, it is like really tiring to like plan it out and stuff. That's not to say it's not fun. It's just like really exhausting sometimes. So like it kind of like scares me a bit to work on it because since it's going to be as long as it is, you know, there's gonna be like a lot of breaks and a lot of hiatuses in between like maybe each 1 and 2 chapters because I'm not like the guys at Japan who could like constantly plan and work on their comic like week to week. I'm just one one teenager, one dude, so I can't like really I could barely work on a chapter like in a single month. To do it like consistently is gonna be like some troubles, but in terms of planning it out, um and you have like almost the entire story jotted down from beginning to wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I put it on paper, it never really comes out the way I do because when I jot the story down, I have like the general like beginning and end points, and everything in the middle I just like go gung ho. I make it up and see how it leads to the end. Of course, I do make like some changes to it and stuff. If I feel like the writing's a bit wonky, I'll like maybe try this or this, and it tends to go really smoothly, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that if you were to go ahead and do something along those lines, you've always got to worry about things in which will change, of course, because you as an artist will grow and change and grow from an art style, especially from a long form comic. Like every single, I can guarantee you, every single comic artist who has worked on things has grown as an artist after making their characters for long enough, drawing in different scenes, different actions or whatnot from actual comic creators to like newsprint to web comic creators. All of them have a chance to go ahead and like have as they make the comic, the art style can change, not drastically but in an improving light each and every time. And I'm curious as to how that's been involved with like your first set of comics versus like you growing as an artist, and how you're going to continue to grow on as in the future. Like how long do you think like this is always, of course, a rough estimate, but how long do you think it would take for you to go ahead and finish the entire plot from beginning to end, like that you have written out, if you were to have your schedule, if you have your continuous bit you have now?
I've actually thought about that for a while, and I'd say pretty accurate estimate would be about 5 years at the least
Mm.
to like finish this entire story. Because keeping in mind, I do have things to worry about like college and stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah,
work.
of course.
So, and being how long this comic is gonna be, I'd say, this story would cap off at about, in about like 5 years.
Wow, it's pretty insane to go ahead and think about the length and process in which you're going to be doing that, and of course you've grown much further as you've gone along. But like, if I were to go off the work of myself from 5 years ago, like to start off from there, it would be a lot. It would be a long process of like you would want to go ahead and like maybe change things that you've had like planned out or things that you've like had along the way. And have you ever experienced that with like the script that you've written? Like you
Oh,
notice something and you're just like, man, I don't know what I was thinking. I got to change that or something along those lines.
oh, yeah, definitely. I can't go into detail about it, but there are there are certain plot lines where I'm like, I've had this like planned for years. This is how it's gonna go. This is how it's gonna turn out. And then like, once a while I'll like think about how the story goes and like go back to that notebook I have and like maybe look around in it to like, maybe change some things and I'll go back and look at that, plot I was super solid on going with and could think like maybe I could change this a bit. Maybe this doesn't have to go this way. Maybe I could just maybe just turn it a little bit and I change the whole arc. It's like a totally different arc now with like
Mm-hmm.
totally new characters and a totally different story. So yeah, I've dealt with that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing totally and still am. There are definitely like story beats that I'm changing even now in this current arc that I'm like changing to fit like the same narrative, but like changing it in a different way. It's like I'm always like shifting the story to like, something new just to keep it like nice and fresh. Because honestly, it's nice to plan out things, but you know, since I since I'm like I know it and I know I just have to like do it, it gets kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
So like you kind of have to like change things up a bit in order to like keep things interesting. Not just for your audience, but for yourself too, because you're not gonna want to tell a story that you don't think is like interesting. So yeah, actually, a friend of mine who also does comics had this like same exact problem. He DM'd me asking like, "Hey, Rizzy, I wanted to know if I could get some advice. I I make this comic, blah blah blah. I can't say the name. And whenever I do the story, whenever I write down my story, but I can't seem to get it to go the way I want." And I told him, well, isn't that's a pretty good thing? Because like if your story is gonna change automatically. It's like drawing, right? Because like if you have a thought of what you want to draw in your head, but then put it onto paper, it's not gonna come out 100% because, well, one, our brains don't really work that way, and two, if it did, it wouldn't be as fun to go through because you know the beats, you know what to do, you know how to go about it, and if you don't like, maybe change it up a bit, it's not gonna be a fun experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. I
No,
thought I felt like I was rambling and not really getting to a point.
no, no, no. It definitely makes sense for you. Like, if you want to go ahead and have any sort of work done, and keep it interesting for yourself, you have to go ahead and you have to have things involved, like change up just at least a little bit, at the very least, because at the end of the day, you are going off of a creative thing that you finish, and there needs to be a drive there as well to go ahead and do it.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
Now, I want to go ahead and talk also a little bit about your character, specifically the one you have as your profile photo, and the one that you have like pretty much everywhere on every social media. You've worked with them as like your main OC for a while, um, Aurora, and I'm curious as to the creation process behind her. Hey there, Doc Conrad here. Normally, this section is meant to transition from the regular episode into the middle bit, and it's meant to be a little bit more humorous. But as of late, Riz has been going through quite a bit of a tough time. So I want to go ahead and take this time to show my support for him and everything that he's been going through. You deserve a lot more than what you're giving yourself right now, Riz. Trust me. There has been a lot in which you have inspired plenty of different artists to go ahead and create their webcomic and create what it is that they've been dreaming of doing all their lives, and you had the gumption to go ahead and do it. I 1000% support you in that regard, and you have been an inspiration for plenty of people. Now, that's not to say that the work that you have done overshadows how you personally feel. I know that in times like these, it's very difficult to get things sorted out, especially in your own headspace. But I want to let you know that I'm here for you, and I'm guessing plenty of your fans are here for you. And if these words mean anything to you at all, when you happen to be listening to this episode, I love you, man. All right, let's go ahead and transition to the middle bit. Hey everybody, welcome back to the middle bit. I'm your host, Doc Conrad, and let's get things started, shall we? If you didn't know from the last episode, I have been streaming live on Twitch every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 10 p.m. EST, and Saturdays at a random point in time. If you are listening to this right now, in fact, later on today, I will be doing a stream. Not entirely sure what it's going to be on Saturday, but it's going to be a good one. I know that for certain. Have a lot of fun with those all the time. Having fun playing Minecraft, Among Us, all those sort of games. It's been quite a bit of fun playing games with fans and friends, people that I know, past guests of the podcast, and all that. So, if you want to go ahead and catch me live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 10 p.m. EST, that is twitch.tv/Dr. Conrad. Again, that is twitch.tv/Dr. Conrad. Also, I've been seeing a lot of support coming from some big fans of the podcast over the past few days, and it's been great to go ahead and see. I want to go ahead and get the ball rolling again, so if you want to go ahead and suggest this podcast to anyone that you think might enjoy it, please go ahead and do so. I'd love to go ahead and check it out, and if you're a fan of the show, feel free to go ahead and @ me on Twitter at CommsOpenPodcast. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at CommsOpenPodcast, and you can go ahead and check me out there. Also, if you happen to be someone who's watching the podcast on YouTube, be sure to hit subscribe and hit the like button. It would really help me out quite a bit. And if you're listening on whatever app you use, I would love it if you would go ahead and follow the podcast. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, anything you want to go ahead and do, just go ahead and follow me there. That'd be amazing. And, yep. Alright, that looks like it's going to be it for the middle bit. You guys enjoy the rest of the interview. Take care. Alright, bye.
Well, I'll be glad to talk about it. So, I'll start with the creation process because I actually came up with this character for an entirely different comic, that I had in like high school that I'd make like just for fun. I didn't really post it. Um, so originally I just designed this character with like, big poofy hair, generally the same clothes they have on now, but with like the same kind of hair they have, that stuff. And originally they were meant they were made for like this like sort of monster hunter comic. It's like this small comic I made in high school was about like this like super strong girl that has this giant hammer, just walks around like hunting monsters. And that was fun, but then I thought like I kind of want to do something else with this character. And then I made Star Envy, and um eventually what since I threw away Star Envy because again I thought it was trash, I still wanted to keep this character, even though the projects I had with her weren't really fond of. I was just fond of the design as a whole. So
Mm-hmm.
I went to my drawing board and I drew up this character and I made a little tweaks with her. Like I made her aesthetic like space theme, sort of. Like her hair tie is like an upside down star. If you look in the back, it's like a star upside down. And her
Yeah.
hide is like this star-shaped scar. And her name is like Aurora Borealis, which
Mm.
is a dumb pun, but I'm really proud of it because like I play a lot of Phoenix Wright and like the names in Phoenix Wright would usually be like these dumb little puns like Will Powers, Jack Hammer. And I was like, oh, I want to do something like that. That's cool. And I thought since this character is star themed, how about I do like okay, her name's Aurora Borealis.
Yeah.
And I was sold. That was I was keeping that one. Which
You're aware of the Simpsons meme and you're upset that it happened, right? Like
yeah.
you're a little upset because
Because
like, man, everybody thinks I made this character based off that joke now, but like
oh no, I definitely got a few comments based on that, yeah.
yeah. Oh,
But
so keep going, keep going.
originally this character's name was uh Envy Axes, which I thought was a cool name at the time, but then the more I thought about it, I'm like, Envy Axis sounds kind of lame. I kind of want to change it, and so I changed it to Aurora Borealis. But like, I changed it while I was working on the previous comic, Star Envy, and I was like, man, I really want to make these changes to this character for this story, but like, I can't really go through with it now since I'm like, you know, already started this comic. So that's when I thought like, maybe I should make some changes to the entire comic. And so yeah, that's how One of Gangsters came to be, and that's how Aurora came to be. Aurora was really just like one day I felt like drawing a girl and I just drew a girl and I thought it was like cool. And so that's kind of the thing I stuck with. And in terms of that's her visual design with her personality, I'll be honest, I have no idea how to write girls. Like girl characters are like super hard for me to write and I don't know why. Because when I write a girl character, they're either like this princess or like this hardcore ass. And like I don't really want to go in those two. So I decided to make Bori like this tomboy character. Like her personality is that of like just this idiotic dude. Like this like
Yeah,
like
very scrappy, very Monkey D. Luffy.
yeah, very Luffy. And so no, when I actually put that to paper, I'm like, this is really fun. I like this character. This is like I just wanted to make like a fun character that I could, you know, be fond of drawing like every day. And so, that's how Aurora came to be. And that's
um,
how I just stuck with her with this comic.
and so you basically like you not you base this plot you base this plot around you base this plot around the main character being Aurora for a while and like the relations that she's going to be having, but she wasn't originally for it. She was for like not only a different comic but had a different name, and she's grown a ton since then. And
Oh yeah,
that
totally.
all happened like in high school, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's recently that I started like I introduced like a bunch of other characters. It's like in the story too, which Abori is like the leader of this small gang called like, the Starhead gang. And like, I wrote these characters to like sort of to complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like since Bori is like the figurehead for that gang, she's sort of like the glue that holds sort of everyone together. And that alone is a concept I want to like play with, like, like this leader and their gang and what it means to be like a real leader and stuff. But yeah, I plan on for a while now, it's just been Bori who's like been my main mascot, which is a blessing and a curse too, because I'm glad people like Bori, but like, I have these other characters I want to introduce, but if I do that, it's gonna be hard to get people to like them because people really like Bori, and like I gotta make him like not make him, I gotta like introduce this character. I need to I want to have like each character live up to Bori's expectations, live up to the legend that Bori left, I guess, or
Mm-hmm.
that Bori has. But like that's not something that's really possible with like a character I've sort of made my like mascot for like years and years because people are gonna like mostly know this character,
Mm-hmm.
which like I'm fine with. But
Yeah.
yeah, because like I like Bore. Everyone likes Bore. So like, and people still like the other characters. So it's cool.
Yeah, why don't we actually talk a bit about some of your other characters that you developed as well? Because while, like you said, Bori is a great character. She's very iconic, and it's something that I recognized from your art as well. But why don't we go ahead and talk about like some of the other characters you developed, and you can use this as an opportunity to go ahead and semi introduce them, talk about the concepts you've had behind them as well, and the things that you've made involved with them. Like you can list any of them that you're like either working on or involved with the comic or whatever.
Yeah, sweet. I'd love to. So you guys already know Bori. So I guess I'll go in order with how they're introduced in the comic, starting with Bori's first mate, her first crew member, Jeff Cannon, who is a 24-year-old cybernetic doctor who and he's a doctor. He does things like smokes, eats unhealthy, has a has generally bad habits that harm his body, and speaking of his body, it's all metallic and metal. So for a doctor, this guy isn't really all too healthy and all that really, self-caring when it comes to his body, which he's cool with. He's just like wants to be like there for his, his pal Boring. And with with Jeff, he's sort of like this serious, stern. Like he's the exact opposite of Bori, where Bori is like happy-go-lucky, like chipper. Jeff is like this. All right, dude, come on, we gotta like get serious for a bit. Like you've been picking your nose for like 10 hours now. Come on, stop it. That kind of attitude. And he's because I wanted to like create that sort of like balance for Bori, where Bori is like this kid that like, will just go free and do whatnot and cause trouble. Jeff
Mm-hmm.
is like this parent who like keeps Bori in line or like stops her from like destroying the next town over because she did something really dumb. And then there's the other character, Ashley Ember, who is another one of my female characters who I actually really love to draw because I just like her design a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Ash is a fisherman, but instead of using a fishing rod to fish, what she does is she gets a string, ties one end to her fist, ties the other end to a hook, throws the hook in the water, and waits for fish to like bite onto the hook, to where she gets her fist and fucking throws it in the air in order to like reel the fish in and like catch like these huge, massive like beast of fish things. And it's like I thought that idea was like super cool, and it's just like super fun to draw it. And her personality is that, she's like this. She's sort of like the level-headed one in the gang, similar to Jeff, but like her level-headedness is sort of like tied to like this. I want to be like this cool kid persona, but like in reality, she's like sort of like this like big dork, and she's just trying to like be cool in front of her like friends, just to like seem like she knows what she's doing, but really doesn't. Which like in the chapter she was introduced, the fish she caught was actually a poisonous fish, and her friend pointed it out, and like in order to make it seem like she was like did it on purpose, or like she was like uh being super cool and stuff, she was just like, oh, it's whatever, it's poisonous, who cares, we'll just cook the poison out or something, it's no big deal. And I just love that like sort of like hot-headed character who's like so like what's the word, like they won't admit when they're like dumb and
Yeah,
like trying to be super cool.
yeah, won't admit when they're wrong, like stubborn.
Yeah, yeah, like there's she's sort of stubborn attitude to her, but like it's sort of charming because the only reason she has this attitude is like to impress like her other friend, and to get to her friend, this like another member of the crew, this girl named Hilda Brooks, who is a katana wielding swordsman, and like she's 17, she's the youngest of the group. So, cool things like pulling a fish out of water with your hand and a hook tend to like impress her. So Ash like does her best like impress this person she's known since like childhood, to like, boost her confidence, help her feel good. And Hilda's all for it because she just thinks Ash is like super cool. Little does she know she's a big fucking dork who doesn't know what's going on. But I just like that sort of dynamic where it's like big brother, little brother, where it's like the big brother will show their little brother something like, hey, yeah, I know what that does. I lived longer than you. And the little brother's just like, oh wow, you do know what that is. Whoa.
Hmm.
And it's like it's like just something dumb like a hornet's nest, and they're just poking a hornet's nest thinking it's not gonna like eat them up.
Nah.
But
Keep going.
but then there's another character, Kessler Max, who's like this big music head. He's like this dude who's like he's sort of like the quiet one, but he's like super into music. He's very musically active, which I haven't shown off yet because I'm saving that for a very like special moment. But like, and I gave like a hint to it in his design, where he's like, he has headphones on, he listens to music, he sort of wears like this hip hoppy getup, and he tends to be like the quiet one of the group, even though he's like super musically active. And him and Ash don't really get along because he's the one who always points out Ash's like stupidness. And Ash will just like again poke something like a hornet's nest, thinking it's not gonna kill him, and Kessler's just like, "Hey Ash, if you poke that hornet's nest, a bunch of hornets are gonna sting you, right?" And Ash is just like, "Nah, it's whatever. I'll just shove off the stings. It's fine." And like that's their chemistry. It's like, you know, he's the one that will nonchalantly call her out on her bullshit, even though he doesn't do it out of like malice. He's just like he and like
He does it out of caring for the others. So like, don't you want to be like okay or like all right or like
yeah,
let me
that
help
that
you.
and that he also is not aware of Ash's facade of like, I'm this cool character, and just thinks they're like he like thinks of himself sort of higher, but also like cares for them and wants them to be safe.
Hmm.
And we'll just like point out Ash's bullcrap whenever. So they just have this like sort of chemistry with them where it's like we're again like Kessler doesn't have any malice towards her. He's actually like super oblivious to like Ash's whole personality.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, Ash hates this guy because she thinks he's onto him. She thinks he knows about his whole like her whole like little like fake persona she puts on for her friend. But there's them, and then there's one more character, which is actually my favorite character of the entire group. I don't draw as much, but I should actually get to drawing him, which is Grizzly. And he is a very, very massive human being. He's so big, in fact, that he's like he has to like fold his legs just to like when he's standing still because he's a warm-hearted guy, right?
Hmm.
So he's really tall. He's the tallest in the group. So like when he stands, he feels like he's looking down on all of his friends and he doesn't want to like feel that way. So he folds his legs and just sits down in order to like get to their level to talk to them. And smiling all the time while he's doing so because like, oh, I'm on the same level as my friends. Oh, I could like look at him eye to eye and we could like talk and have a good conversation. And he's like a really big, really sweet dude. He just wants to like, be around his homies, like have some fun. He was also raised by like a horde of gorillas, so he's like super strong. And he is in charge of riding the ship which the Starhead gang live on, which is the Ursa Major, this star-faced, long-nosed ship that I designed based on the Going Merry from One Piece. Haha, big surprise. And he's the helmsman of it because being born in the jungle, you have more awareness of your surroundings and like the world around you. So, who better to man the ship than a guy who's like been around the dangers of like the wildness of the world, you know?
Hmm.
And that's the Starhead gang. Um, I do plan on having more characters like join that gang specifically, just to grow like this cast and stuff.
Yeah.
But as a small hint to anyone who's like reading, I plan on the next character to be like this mechanic who like fixes up the ship, fixes up Jeff whenever he gets broken up, whenever his machinery's not working on him. And yeah, that's the other character I plan so far. I can't go into depth about like other characters I plan out in the future because that's gonna be like spoilers and stuff. Even though I
Hmm.
really, really want to talk about it, but I just like can't because like spoilers.
I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and cut you off right there, involved with like spoiling everything because I love the characters that you've already told me about. I love each of their personalities and how they're going to interact with each other and everything. And I'll be sure to go ahead and read up further to catch up with the whole plot to get everything down. Because from what you've told me, I'm liking this so far. I was a fan of early One Piece. I was a fan of those kind of shonen mangas, especially as a child, especially my childhood and like high school age. I love those kind of things, and I'll be sure. I'm like I've been wondering if I could scratch that itch once more, and I think that supporting you as well while doing that is going to be great because you've got your own take on it, you have your own story with it, and I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Oh,
Um,
thanks. That means a lot, dude.
I want to know more about a bit about yourself. Because while you've been focusing a lot on this artwork, and I know this project works you've been working hard on. Why don't you go ahead and talk a bit about who you are?
Oh well, I'm Rizzy, but uh, or my name is Warren. Hi guys. Um, no, I'm just this 19-year-old, currently college student. I live in New York City, which is like, my main inspiration for like drawing a comic based in the city because I lived in like New York City like almost all my life, and it's pretty much like what I know. It's what I call home. Even
Hmm.
though it has some problems, it's what I like. It's what I love to call home. And I am currently in college, working to get a degree in studio arts. Working to improve my craft and stuff. Um, what else can I say about me? Oh, I am an African American male who loves to eat pancakes a lot. Like, I love pancakes. If you give me pancakes, then you're my best friend forever. That, and I really like frogs. Frogs are like the best animal in the entire world to me. I don't know why. I just think like these cute little slimy jump hopping creatures are like really cool. And eventually I want to get one. I love animals in general. Animals are just like like dogs and cats and ferrets or whatever, just super fun to like take care of and deal with. But uh man, what else can I say about myself? Sorry.
I know it's a weird question to ask, but I think let me go ahead and ask you real quick. There's something I always ask creators of color that I have on my show, and that is has anything specific is there anything specific you want to go ahead and discuss involving that sort of thing that's like either affected you like in your work early on or anything like that, or has it mostly been like is there anything that you can say like, oh, this sort of work helped me get through something, or anything involved with that? I always ask like creators of color involved with those sort of things because I've had a number amount of them, and I'd love to go and hear your perspective on all sorts of different things involved with like the work that you've done or like the things that you've faced in your life, anything involved with that.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. Like there's definitely like this period in high school where I like hit this like real low point in like life. Like, I lost a couple friends. A few family members were deceased, were gone, and I felt pretty down about it. I wasn't really like, I was really at a depressed state in my life. I broke up with someone, family members died, lost some friends, like stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So creatively, like I got over it eventually, but like, at that time I was like at a super low point, like both like mentally and creatively. And like, I had friends to like get me through it and stuff. And one thing I do on my downtime was it sounds silly, but hear me out. I would like, you know, in my downtime I just like watch just anime or whatever. And like, a series that I said like got me like going was like One Piece, which is like during that like down period is what I'd like watch. And over time that series was like what sort of got me was what was sort of getting me through this like mental and creative rut to where I wanted to like, start creating again. I wanted to like, improve myself more and like get myself going, like pick myself back up, like we're gonna do this type of attitude. And again, sounds silly, but I really have that show in particular to uh thank me for getting out of that sort of rut in my life because it really did like I wouldn't be where I am now for sure if it wasn't for One Piece. Which to some people sounds weird to have this like show or product like maybe help you get through this rut, but it helps me out, and I'm appreciative for that
Mm-hmm.
because I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for like that series and my friends who especially my friends who like helped me get through that rut because like if it weren't for them I would not be like creating. I'd probably be working at a dollar store or something.
Mm-hmm. Um, I can go ahead and say that like I'm glad that something that is so impactful in your life highly inspired you to make a story on it, and it makes sense for you to be inspired by said stories to go ahead and like create further the work that you've made. Your characters are absolutely wonderful. I love seeing them. I love the look. I love the look of each one of them. They're all very unique and distinct with their personalities, but have like their own sense of charm with them as well. And while I can see similarities in between from the things that I've stated before, they all have their unique spin on their sort of on their sort of thing that make them uniquely them. Aurora, every single character that you stated in the crew, including some of the villains that I've seen like are already just from early on reading, which I gotta read more. You've definitely like you can definitely go ahead and show that things can while you can be inspired by things, you can always make them your own, and you can always go ahead and change them for that. And it's I'm glad to see that you've like grown further as an artist to go ahead and create those sort of things. Your plot line has been your plot line while you stated like you set out things early on, but you're going to continue to grow, of course. Every artist does from that point, and being able to change those things creatively is what's going to go ahead and I'm guessing help you out quite a bit. Um, and yeah, you can go ahead and read Rizzy's work right now on you can read it on webtoons.com. Wanted Gangstars is the name, and you can go ahead and follow Rizzy on Twitter as well. I gotta go ahead and find it. Is it WriizzyArts? Is that correct?
It's WRIIZZY art.
Yes. And I'll be sure to go ahead and include that in the intro and the outro of everything. But all of that being said, is there anything you want to go ahead and finish up for everything that you've done? Anything else you want to go ahead and add, Rizzy?
Um, yeah, to anyone who like uh so I've met like people who had this problem before. To anyone who wants to like, create comics and like have OCs that they want to create comics about, just go for it. Just like do it. It's like so fulfilling to have like get it done and like actually go along with this idea you have with your characters. And it's a hard one, but it's a fun one. Like, so if you want to create something, just go ahead and create it. Just do it. You have no excuse. Go do it now.
And
You at the screen.
you on the other end of your phone, or perhaps listening to this on YouTube or wherever, you can go
Yeah,
ahead
you
and yeah, get working right now. Do it.
eating those chicken nuggets with soy sauce on your belly.
Rizzy, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate you reaching out, and I really hope that you go ahead and continue to work on One of Gangstars for as long as you deem to be passionate for, as long as you have a passion for it. I'm glad to
Well,
go ahead and
it's
see
it's
it
a
keep moving
pleasure.
forward.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. And thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate it.